Dan Andros here, Lindsay Elizabeth there. We're with Faithwire, and we're here with JD from Hillsong. JD, thank you so much for stopping by and spending a few minutes with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, so how often do you get to New York? We're going to start with a New York question here since you're here.
Well, listen, not often enough. I definitely love this city, but it's a little ways away from Sydney, Australia, where I live, so it's I'm not here as often as I'd like to be.
What I'll go for a food question here. What is your food fix, if you have one, here in New York that you've got to get?
I'm a burger boy. I absolutely love a good burger, unfortunately.
There's a Five Guys right around the corner. I mean, that's a chain, but...
Five Guys is good. Shake Shack is...
yes. There's usually a line there, but it's worth it.
Yeah, that's definitely a favorite.
So why don't you give us a little preview of what you got going on here? We got the new album out.
Yeah, so the...
Well, it's out the 26th, right?
Yeah, yes. I was going to say. Yeah, it's,
some of it's out. We've heard, we're listening to some of the tracks that have been released. Yeah,
it's a really exciting time for us, the United family, because, this album has been something that I think, we're always excited about what we get to do, and it's been an amazing journey, but there's just seems something so fresh and new about even just the process and recording this has been phenomenal, and being able to kind of road test the songs at home with our church and our youth group. The response has just been really amazing, and we're here and we're about to release the album, but then we're also excited because we're on tour straight away with it, and so there's definitely this excitement, and it's been a little while since we've been on the road, so it's kind of, we're all really up for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the significance behind the name of the album, People? Is there something personal, or is it as a whole for your band?
No, I think, it's kind of simple and self-explanatory for us that these songs are for people, and they're obviously written by people. We are human, not robots, just in case anyone was wondering. But really the heart for this album is to connect with people and actually unite people. It's crazy now. Our name's United, and I think this album, there couldn't be a more stronger theme of actually uniting people across the world, and wherever they come from, all the differences that we have at the same time, we're all one, and so that's really the heart behind the title.
That's great. Let's go back a little bit. How did you get tangled up in Hillsong United? How did your journey, intersect with what's going on there? Because it's amazing to watch all the artists that come through and perform with you guys, because it's just like this amazing, I don't know, confluence of talent that just seems to come through there. It's amazing the stuff you guys do, and we all love it, and churches everywhere love it. So where did your journey begin with them?
Yeah, I just put my name in a hat and it got picked out, and no, I'm joking.
Won the lotto.
Yeah, exactly. Hillsong United was birthed and is still planted in Hillsong Church, which started in Sydney, Australia, and now has kind of spread across the world over the last 35 odd years. And I just grew up in the church. I went to Sunday school there and was in the youth group, and right at the time when United was kind of birthed, I just happened to be in the youth group and friends with one of the guys who was the worship leader, Joel. We grew up together and kind of just got thrown into it, really. At that time, there wasn't a lot of guys singing at our youth group, especially if I didn't play an instrument, so I kind of thought, I can't sing unless I'm holding a guitar, because that's the thing that everyone was doing. And really just by being there, growing up in the church, our pastors, Brian and Bobby, have always, I think one of the hallmarks of their leadership is they've always kind of believed in the next generation before we ever believed in ourselves. And so that kind of leadership culture and bring through the next generation. We had Darlene, who, for anyone who's been around for a while, she was our worship pastor, and we were starting to birth songs out of our church, and they just gave us a go on Big Church one Sunday and said, have a go. And so we all got up there and were horrible. But one thing we did have was a passion to serve God and to build his church and to help people. And we were always encouraged by our leaders just to use whatever God's put in your hand to fulfill the dreams in your heart, to glorify God. And so that's really what we've done. We're like, well, we're passionate about life. We love music and creativity. So let's do that and do it for the glory of God. And that's kind of been our journey 20 years on now.
That's real quick, Lindsay, I just want to follow up on that. That first moment you went up there, I mean, that's a huge moment. I love what you're saying about how the church entrusted, because a lot of churches will cling to what is working and what is going on, and they're not, passing the torch, and change in church is often, tough to come by. So what was that moment like when you were up there that first time? What were you feeling, when you're in front of this big church? And was it a big church then when you were up there?
Well, it's, it's grown a lot now, but back then I still, think would have been the largest church in Sydney at the time. And it was horrifying, the thing about all of our team, we didn't really kind of get together at a young age and we're like, let's make albums and tour the world and do what we're doing. It was really the heart of what we're doing has always been our dream to reach the world and to help people. But we didn't realize that we'd have to stand in front of a lot of people to do that. And so we're all pretty reluctant leaders and, musicians. And so it's been quite a journey. I used to get physically ill every time before I got on stage. I just, people come and ask me, do you have tips for overcoming stage fright? And I'm like, no, don't talk to me. I don't know. It's just, I've just had to live with it.
It's still going.
Live with it, that pressure. But again, for us, what's always made it easy is we understand that we aren't that great, but we serve a God who is amazing and who is great. And so we know that we can't change a life, but he can in a millisecond. And so we're not really confident in and of our own abilities, but we are so confident in God. And as soon as we start to, we put the pressure on him to do the hard work and the heavy lifting, and we just get out there and have fun.
That's great. I'm going to remember that. I have to do the communion message in 2 weeks, so I'll remember that when I'm up there.
Unfortunately, you still have to do the hard work of preparation, but it sounds easier than it is.
Well, all these years later, as a band, how have you guys grown? Like, what's different from when you first started?
Well, obviously we're older, and I think that we've grown up together, the majority of us. And United's always been a bit of a fluid team, and it always started by being a representation of our youth ministry at the time. And so, with any given tour, there could be a different keyboard player or a different singer here, and we've kind of, interchanged players, and that's been the beauty of the strength of being planted in a local church. We've been able to do that, and then, but for the last few years, we definitely solidified a bit of a team, and still at any given day, you can kind of see different members coming in and out. But the majority of us have actually just grown up together and been on the journey from day one, from the first time we wrote these songs and showed them to our little youth ministry on our summer camps, and to kind of every step of the way now to be able to travel and be here with you guys on the other side of the world, and tour these songs and over hear the response of the people and how they're connecting. It's been amazing, and we literally have grown up together. We started, when we started, we were all single, and now I think almost every one of us are married, and a lot of us have kids now. And so it's just been that journey of life, and it is the ups and the downs. And I think going through all of that has been an amazing thing to stick together. And my favorite thing about us as a team, we're all still best friends, and literally, like, when we go home, we hang out with each other.
That's great. Yeah, and it really shows in all of the the videos we see, and I think that really comes through. But you guys have reached such a point now where you're so well known. I don't know if you're familiar with Crist, the comedian.
Yes, he's a friend of mine. So.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering what it was like. I mean, I guess you know him, so it makes it a little easier. But the one video where the song "Oceans," obviously a popular song that you guys created, and there's this whole skit about how to make a Christian hit, and he keeps going back to oceans, and we need more water, and all this stuff. What do you guys react like when you see stuff like that?
Oh, we laugh. We absolutely love it. We messaged him straight away and said that was amazing. And he did one of my favorite things he's done was a Coachella. Like a Christian so Coachella kind of lineup list, and that was just absolutely hilarious. No, I think, and I don't know whether it's just the Australian culture, but we don't take ourselves too seriously, and we like to have a lot of fun in what we do. And to be honest, I think that's been one of the biggest secrets for us to kind of stay together and to keep going, because we all go through days and seasons where it's not what we wanted or expected. But I think just trying to always enjoy the journey and the process, and understand that it sounds a lot, romantic, that God is working all things together for good, but living that out day after day is, it can be tough. And so I think we've just always learned to be able to laugh at each other. And our youth pastor, Phil Dooley, well, he was our youth pastor when, United really was birthed. That was his trait. He always would just be able to laugh at anything. And I'm glad that we've all kind of really taken that on. So it means that we have a lot of fun along the way.
That's great.
What's it like touring when you guys have families at home? Do they come with you, or is it?
They come every now and then, nowhere near as often as we would like to, but we're really excited about this tour. Because to answer your question in short, it's tough, and it is a sacrifice. But I understand everyone has have to make sacrifices in life. But I think we understand that we're graced to do this, and we believe in what we're doing, and that's probably the thing that makes it the easiest to do. It's not easy to leave. I've got 3 small kids at home and an amazing wife, and it's hard to leave. But when we understand that we really feel God's graced us to do this, because I look on paper how often we are away or what our schedules can be, and it looks daunting to me, and it's tough, but at the end of the day, we just feel like God kind of carries us, and he's graced my wife way more than he's graced me, because she's the one that's at home with the kids. But the cool thing is, with this tour, we've designed it and we're hoping it works well and everyone's excited about it, is that we normally would do kind of 3 legs that we space out of the United States, because the majority of us are still in Australia. So this tour, we tried to squeeze 2 of the legs together, and instead of us all flying home, we're bringing a lot of the families over to experience the nights, and it happens to be in LA, so we'll get a little bit of Disneyland in there. And
nice.
So hopefully that will make it a bit easier, but we try as often as we can to bring our families on the journey. It's just not a short flight to Australia.
It's pretty long. Yeah. What's it like performing in concert? Have you guys heard any like stories in particular of people who are moved by your music, or?
Yeah, it's the most humbling thing to be able to do what we do and to stand on that stage, because we all know ourselves and we know that we're not that good and we're not that talented, and it's not hard for us to lose sight that it's only by the grace of God that we get to do what we get to do. And so it's the most humbling experience to be able to do that. And also you can sometimes you can't always see what God's doing in a room, but sometimes you actually can. And when we see people close up, and if they've got tears on their face, so we always want to give people an opportunity every night to connect with God or reconnect with God. And seeing that response is always something that is just mind-blowing. And then also hearing feedback of how these songs help people in just the most crazy of situations, like hearing about how, like, people will use our songs for their weddings, people use their songs for their for loved ones who have passed, and everything in between. And to hear that feedback, it never gets old for us, because we had big dreams for our lives and we wanted God to use us. Like, I think everyone prays those prayers when they're in youth group about, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And to see what the journey that he's taken on this far is just something that we actually can't believe it and never thought would happen.
Yeah, well, and what a great blessing, because like you said, sometimes you don't always get to see how God uses something, but that's a great blessing for you guys that you do get to see that a lot of times. What do you think it is about music that, I can turn on one of your guys' songs and there's a few where I don't know what it is. It just like melts me, and I'll listen to it on repeat, like over and over and over again, and I don't even really know why I'm doing it. And then it's just, but I feel like it's drawing me closer to him. So, what do you think it is about music that does that?
It's probably just my voice, really. I think that even if I'm not leading the song, I'm a backing vocal somewhere in that. So
it's just you. You're gonna make me get weepy.
Yeah. No, I've heard I don't know who came up with this quote, but I've heard it quoted over and over that, music has this way of entering your soul without permission. And there's no doubt in my mind that God created music, and he created music to glorify himself and to help people. And so that's always our prayer. We don't write these songs so people will like them or even enjoy them. We write these songs that they carry the word of God and the presence of God that can come in, and it's that, the Bible talks about peace that goes beyond understanding. And that's our prayer. That's what we labor to happen. And I'm the same. The way that it does influence and impact you is a phenomenal thing. And I just think that that's the way God created it to do. And it's like music is that universal language, and so it's definitely amazing. And so it's so good to be able to use music and melody to do what I think God created it to do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I listened to Another in the Fire like 40 times the first day it came out. I was like, how am I not sick of this yet? Do you have a favorite song on the upcoming album, or one that in particular touched your heart?
There's like so many. It's so hard to like pick. It's like your favorite movie.
Yeah.
And I think that Good Grace has been phenomenal, just for the way that it's. I think the way we sing that corporately, and it's just been amazing. All the songs we've done, we have actually done every single song in our church services over the last few months, and every single one has been received really, really well. Whole Heart is just one that, for even today, whenever I lead worship, I want to put it on my song list, because it's just something about that song. As You Find Me is so special about just I think the way that the guys were able to, finish those lyrics to portray that the truth is that God loves us as he finds us, that we were actually found before we were lost, and that his love is too good to leave us where we're at. And then, like you said, Another in the Fire has just been just these simple biblical truths that, are timeless and are powerful. It's been, I love them all. Is that bad?
No.
It's the band I'm in. I sound really like...
That's how I felt, like the same exact way. Obviously, it's not my music, but listening to it, I feel like with the albums, I always start with like one song, and then another day it's another song, and it's kind of cool how music touches you differently at like different points.
I think, what you're saying about the music there connecting with us, you guys do a great job of a biblical truth, like you said, but then also creating a song that's just a nice melody and is easy to sing. So I think part of the reason why it connects with us is because you're just laying out a biblical truth, and God's going to use that truth, but then you guys connect a biblical or a nice melody to the biblical message. So what is your guys' sort of approach on that? I mean, are you just thinking like, how do you approach a song when you're like, what is the balance between, the catchiness of it, it's and the message, if that's a little convoluted question there, but hopefully you know what I'm getting at.
I know I can speak on behalf of all the writers that it is a wrestle, to do all those things. And I think that it's a combination of wanting it to come from a real authentic place, not just trying to pick a subject of the Bible and put it to me, which isn't a bad thing, but that's just for us. We've always wanted these songs. And Joel often talks about, we want to write the most honest songs that we possibly can, that are from our experience, from our struggles or our triumphs, or from the revelation that we've got from God through his word. And so that kind of personal honesty of the song, I think, is really important for us. And probably the most important thing, that it is biblical, that it lines up with the scripture. And we have a simple process. We have a couple of our teaching pastors that they have to approve all the lyrics of the songs that we write, because, it's because we write these songs to be sung, and we feel like we are putting God's word in people's mouths. We want to make sure that we get it right. And none of us are Bible scholars. We're all passionate, have read the Bible, but it can be so deep, and we also want to make sure these songs can be translated and still make sense. So we've got that process, and to be honest, that's a really hard process as well, because there'll be this battle. We're going, this is what we want to say. It sings so well. It's, so poetic, and it rhymes or whatever it might be. And they'll be like, yeah, but it can be misinterpreted the wrong way. Or that wasn't the original purpose of that scripture. And so those songs go through a washing machine. And then also we want it to be fresh. And it's like, that's the challenge of telling these age-old truths in a kind of different way. But I think we've just decided that, there are so many facets to God. There's so many different sides, and he is always doing a new thing, and his mercies are new every morning. And so just going with that expectation, like, we're going to find it. We're not going to rest on our laurels and go, we've got a formula that worked for the last album, let's rehash it. We just never want to do that. And so, but all of that is wrapped up in that every time we write these songs to be sung, whether it be in your bedroom or whether it be in your church congregation or a small group or a stadium, we want to we write these songs with the intention that people can sing them. And so all of that comes together in about 5 minutes, and you've got a song.
It's just that easy.
That was my sarcasm. No, Australian sarcasm.
No, that's great. I appreciate the sarcasm like that. Well, I appreciate that because I can't sing a lick. So anything that's like, in that range where I can at least make it look like I'm singing along and, putting on a good effort.
So with the upcoming tour, what's your overall hope and goal for the result and for people that go to it?
Yeah, that's a good question, and there's a few things. I think that the first thing is we want to make sure that everything about the night glorifies God, and I think if we start with that, then everything else is going to kind of, be set into motion. But we've got a theme, our church, across Hillsong Church, this year. Our pastor kind of has been talking about revival being in the air, and I think revival can be interpreted in so many different ways. I think someone committing their life to God and salvation, that's revival. But also, the stereotype of those big revivals is, and everything in between. But our prayer is that we would spark a new revival. And I think the way that happens is by individuals connecting with God. And either being reminded of his truths and his plan for their lives, or maybe hearing it for the very first time. And so that's what we're believing. We really think that, it can be horrible sometimes reading the news every day. I have it on my phone, and I want to be in touch with what's going on and the current affairs. But it's also, to be honest, I think we all would agree, it can be depressing, and there can be fear that is cast through all of that. And we just think that there's never a better time for the people of God to unite around the common theme of God and His power of His Word and the truth of His salvation. And so I think that even you can hear that in some of the lyrics. And Good Grace is definitely one that I think kind of sums up the whole album. That it's about people coming together, strangers, neighbours. Our blood is one, and just really uniting the church, but even just uniting humanity and encouraging that. I think those are some of the things we're really believing. And we're excited because we want to have a lot of fun along the way.
That's great. Yeah. And look, you're right about the news. I mean, you guys are Hillsong, the United, but there's just so much division going on right now. I mean, I feel like people are like putting themselves into camps, and there's just a lot of, back and forth, and, a lot of bickering. I mean, like you said, getting on the news, I go on Twitter and I'm like, I'm right off of Twitter after, or if I engage and I'm like, why did I do that? No, I shouldn't have done that. But you're right. So that's a great, it's great to have forces like you guys out there who are dedicated to that, because we need it.
Yeah, honestly, I think one of the greatest plans of the enemy is to bring disunity within the church or even within believers, and we're not always going to agree on the same thing. Like, the person I love the most in this world is my wife, and like, I know this might be a shock horror, but we don't even agree on everything, so let alone people that we don't even know. But I think as well, just highlighting that, the power of, I think if God can unify us together and really accept us the way that we are and look forward, I think that's definitely something that this project and this tour is our purpose to do.
How does it work with all the different Hillsong music groups? Like, there's Hillsong Worship, Hillsong Young and Free, Hillsong United. Do you guys work on things together, or are you like completely separate entities?
Yeah, well, we're kind of one massive family, and the journey's been amazing. Hillsong Worship, to explain it in a nutshell, Hillsong Worship kind of represents globally the sound and the song of our church and our team. So really that means that United and Young and Free are part of that, but really focused on, I guess, equipping the church with songs and really trying to train up musicians and worship leaders in worship for church. And then Young and Free is our youth, I guess, our younger expression of, our church and our youth group. And United is just the guys that used to be the youth worship team and are too old, and so we're lost in the middle somewhere. But no, we are definitely, we're all one big family, and we do work together. And I think if you do look at, the songwriters on all the different albums, there's a lot of crossover, and we kind of each year we focus on, like last year United, we recorded an album, and so everyone's focus was on trying to, make that the best it possibly could be. The year before, Young and Free recorded their record, and so all the writers and all the team just kind of gather around and champion that. And Hillsong Worship are doing one at the moment, so it's the same. We're all kind of, we're just one big family, and then hopefully go out and can run in different lanes at the same time.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Here's an offbeat question for you. Have you ever gone on YouTube? You guys have a zillion YouTube views. That's insane, first of all. I think we were looking at one that had 100. What's the biggest one? Do you know what the biggest one is? I saw like 100 million or
Strongly
something.
would know.
Oh, is that the 100 million? I think I looked at it was like 99. At least the one I looked at. There's a bunch of different versions out there. So, but what I was going to ask was, have you gone on YouTube and seen, because everyone does your songs, all the churches do your songs, and have you seen a cover where you're like, yeah, that one was better than ours?
Yeah, I know, 100%. I had a look. There was this guy. You've put me on the spot, and I've got a memory of a goldfish. But
we'll try to find it.
I can't remember what song it was, but this guy just kind of had a vocoder and just like a keyboard, and just did it so bare bones, but with like this really cool electronic effect. And I remember we all were listening to it, going like, "Man, we need this guy to do a whole album for us." Like it was
get him up on stage.
Yeah, definitely. I wish I remembered. I'll go back and have a look now. But
that's
yeah,
great. What's that like, seeing like, because you're saying like you're trying to create these songs for churches and you're succeeding. Like churches, everywhere, every church I've ever been to will do a song, one of your guys' songs. And so, what's that like? What is that like for you guys?
It's so hard to believe. Like it's amazing, because in one sense that's the goal. Like we want to equip the church, and we believe that God has Hillsong, the church in name in and of itself is Hills, is song, and a lot of that's got to do with just even, it wasn't even our design or human plan. It's just the way that God has birthed that movement of songwriting and worship within our church. And we've always felt like it was for more than just us, that it was for us to share and equip and empower other churches. So it's like, that's the goal and that's what we're going after. But at the same time, like, it's disbelief that it's actually working. Because again, I promise you, we are very, very normal people and work really, really hard. But I don't think we're the most talented. I don't think we're the best at what we do, but we definitely have passion. And I think we'll try our hardest to, to be good stewards of what God's put in our hands. But I remember the first time I wrote a song, and about 2 months after I wrote it, I got an email, I think it might have even been a letter, this is a long, long time ago, from Scotland thanking me for that song and how it's impacting their church. And I was just thinking, man, I'd never been to Scotland, I'd never, hardly traveled, and yet these songs can travel further into more places than we'll ever go. I just can't even describe that feeling of like absolute gratitude, and, definitely puts a smile on our face, but more than anything, just disbelief at, that God's been able to do what he's done in through us over this journey. It's definitely, I tell you, we're more blown away than anyone.
That's fantastic. Well, I know you've got a busy schedule here, so we'll let you go. But what do you want people to hit? We'll put all the links in the posts. But what do you want to leave people with, and what they can get, and where they can get it?
That's a good question. I think we're always doing a lot, and obviously with the record, it's available on all music platforms. And I'd want to encourage you, and I hopefully you wouldn't regret getting a hold of the music and letting it sink in. And also, if anyone is around any of the places, we're touring in the States over the next kind of 3 to 4 months, you can go on the hillsongunited.com and look at all all the dates and come along. I promise you'll have a good night, and I believe God will speak to you.
That's great. Are you doing Creation? The Creation Fest? Are you guys doing that?
I think a Hillsong worship team is
doing. I feel like I thought I saw that.
Yeah,
so
I could be
not,
there, but
my apologies.
No,
you don't know. You just go where they take you.
Yeah,
just get on the
exactly.
plane, get on the bus, just go where they go. So,
Yeah.
All right, JD, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate the time that you have spent with us here at Faithwire.
Thanks for having me.